Hello, Rebecca. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of the Genetic Fat Loss Podcast for Executives. We're going to dive into some quite interesting questions, actually, that I came up with this morning. And then you can kind of introduce yourself throughout those questions if that suits. Does that work all right for you?
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited that we're doing this.
Yeah, it's a bit of fun on this for me, at least. It's a very, very dreary day here in northwest of the UK. Very, very dull. No reason to be outside. We're all in lockdown, so why not have an interesting conversation with a fellow health and wellbeing coach? So, Rebecca, first question, if I may. What made you get into being a stress and burnout coach?
Well, for me, it was definitely my own burnout that really pushed me into this. But I say push me in with the most positive sense, because I came on my right path and the path that I should be on, helping people and definitely doing everything that I can to get more education out there and speak about both stress and burnout prevention and what to do to stop this. To see the signs yourself and know when to stop and really hit the brakes when it comes to burnout. Because my background is, 15 years in the corporate office, sales and marketing, did, worked in both London and Madrid and Dublin and spent a few years there. So I really come from a background of typical, A-type personality of go, go, go on the fast train, tick all the boxes of this is what I need to get done, go to school and get this certification, and wasn't really, in check or let's say in tune or connected mind, body, soul for so many years. So I ignored the signs. They were definitely there, especially in the last year before my burnout, but I didn't see them at all and was completely checked out and just focused on work, and just digging down on that and ignoring any really health conscious signs. Even if I was quite a healthy person, I was just pushing off like headaches, mood swings, irritation, pain in my body, just by, a couple of aspirin, or find something to numb that and ignore that and keep on pushing. So for me, going through that burnout and, really being not able to do anything, because I was in bed for the first 6 months of my burnout. I couldn't eat, I couldn't move, I couldn't, put clothes on. I had to actually move home to my parents and they had to take care of me. So for me, recovery time and getting back on track was 2-3 years. And even today, as we see, in 2021, that's the thing with burnout. I still have symptoms that I struggle with in terms of like cognitive focus and memory. My short-term memory really got a hit, and just concentration and some brain fog I can get as well. So definitely living the life of true balance now in terms of working and running a business, but also still in a sense of recovery mode with burnout, because I can have really good days, but then I can have days where it's not so great.
Wow. So just to highlight some of the key things you mentioned there, you were in bed for 6 months when it truly hit, right?
Yeah.
So this is not something that you recover from in a weekend or even a week off work or a couple of weeks. This is serious. 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Wow. And then that's the main element of the recovery process, but it's been sort of ongoing for what, 2 or 3 years, you said?
Yeah. I mean, with that as well, especially just looking at the first 6 months, like my body just had to rest and heal. Because looking at the stress system and how our body works, and let's say all the stress hormones that come out from chronic stress of, I'm, looking at my own situation, I understand today that I was in chronic had stressors all in my life and in a constant fight or flight for years. I'm a very resilient person and pushed on that, and we're able to do that as humans to continue pushing, for whatever we are striving for, or the drive within us. But everyone's different, so you can be going 6 months pushing, working 24 hours a day, or it can be years. It can be a long ride. It's so different from everyone. But just coming back to my body, is the cortisol levels and my adrenal glands and everything else. If we go into a deep dive into the body and their function and how that works, stress is there for a reason, or our fight or flight system, I should say, is there for a reason. Evolution wise, if we look at, it protects us, it's there for safety. It was for us way back in the day to keep us safe. But when that is going several times a day and you're in fight or flight mode, so many times of the day, your system doesn't have a chance to come back to its natural state and rest and relax. So with that, I completely burned out and actually couldn't physically move, even though my mind wanted to kind of get up and do these things, or just be able to go downstairs and cook a little meal. I couldn't do that. So I was sleeping for almost like 22, 23 hours a day the first months.
And just on the sort of stress function within the body, so my understanding, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous systems, our fight or flight system, and then our rest and digest recovery system. And if they're kind of binary, it's either one or the other, right? If we're thinking back to sort of evolutionary terms, if we're running from a tiger or some predator, our body switches entirely to that fight or flight mode to help us survive, right? That's evolutionary governance to survive. Right there and then, when we're running away from that, or running up a tree, whatever it is, we're not resting and digesting, recovering ourselves and sort of replenishing our body. And if obviously the triggers have changed, we're no longer running from from lions or tigers. Our body kind of perceives those triggers in modern sort of society as the same as those sort of lions and stuff that we're running away from. And I guess it sounds like you were 24/7 running away, never giving your body a chance to switch into that rest and digest parasympathetic mode, where you recover and replenish and stuff. So it's amazing to hear.
So for me, I was just going to say, for me, it's interesting with this, and we just look at the stressors in our life and what's going on and what's triggering us. And there's so many different aspects of life. Like we said, we're not worried about a bear, chasing us right now. It could be we're late to pick up our kids from daycare. There's a queue in the supermarket and we're running late there. It could be a fight we're having with our loved ones, or a disagreement with them, or something with our boss, and then there's a deadline on top of that. And it could be several things going on. It could be something on social media that has triggered us, and it just continues more and more and more, and you're in this mode then of reacting really to those situations and not taking the time to rest and relax with that. But also I think also really feeling and acknowledging those emotions, because I know for myself, like I was just switched off, from my head and down, like body, anything that was going on in my body, I switched off and numbed that and was just on autopilot.
Really interesting terminology using. Just switched off, no emotions in, completely reactive, autopilot. Yeah, very, very interesting. I'm sure a lot of people can kind of relate to that.
Yeah.
I want to ask then, what is the most powerful change that you've made, or you made, to transition from the state which you were in, where you were, you know, highly stressed in that fight or flight mode constantly, to where you are now, where you're, you know, recovery is still ongoing, but you're teaching others how to sort of improve their lives for good. What's the biggest change there?
For me, there was a few changes. I mean, my recovery was through a lot of different types of therapy, both, you know, more natural, let's say natural spiritual wise healing, trauma healing. I also, you know, went into different therapies and cognitive behavioral therapy. So I had a mix of everything. It was also with breath work, rest, and restorative yoga. So I've tried a few things of just healing my body. So with that and learning all these things throughout my recovery, the biggest change were prioritize my health and rest and relaxation, which of course combines to self-care and self-love. With that, of really prioritizing me time and putting myself first. Another huge thing for me was setting boundaries, and setting boundaries both in terms of myself and respecting myself and my, you know, relationships with, or my relationship with myself, but also relationships with others. If that is in work, if that is with family, friends, that was a huge one. Another big one for me was in my diet. And I know we've kind of spoke about this a little before, of just nutrition wise, which is so important and a complete, you know, game changer. I took out dairy and gluten. I've been quite cautious of sugar. I've never really been a let's say craving sugars person, or sodas or sweets or that kind of thing. That's never been in my life in that sense. But the gluten and dairy was a huge thing for me, just to help with my brain fog and my energy levels and concentration and focus. That really helped me.
How can people practically start to put boundaries in place? Because from what you said there, obviously, you know, I'm a fat loss coach. I'm huge into the nutrition side of things, but boundaries can play in so many different parts of our lives. So what sort of practical advice do you have for someone to start to put those boundaries in place that can start to give them more time to relax, make them less reactive, and so on?
It's really about learning to say no. And I always say, I love the saying of, when you say no, you're saying, you know, yes to yourself. And that is so true in terms of, if you're saying no to, you know, someone asking for help, or someone wanting you to do something, someone wanted to look or take your time or energy wise, that can be, and I know for many, it's very difficult both in work to set boundaries, but I think also with very close family. But it's looking at, you know, how can you reclaim your power and your own time and energy and really protect that? So you can start, you know, I always say to people, start small, and, you know, grow from there and learn where, you know, you're learning essentially where are your own boundaries and what you want to do and what you don't want to do. And there's so little time with everything going on. You know, if you don't want to do something, or if you don't want to hang out with someone during the weekend, or go do a certain, you know, social event or gathering, it's okay to say no. Like, instead of putting yourself in that situation and you're completely, you know, you don't want to be there, you're not even there acknowledging the fact, you know, mind, body, soul, you're in a completely different place because you're wasting your energy of trying to focus and be social in that environment.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that's very it's become a lot easier, should we say, with COVID and everything that's come
Yeah.
into play there.
Yeah.
We don't. There's almost no social interaction happening at all, obviously with
Mm.
restrictions as they are currently, which has made it much easier to kind of, I guess you'd say, reclaim your power. I think that was the terminology you used, which is really powerful.
Yeah. No, sorry. I was just going to jump in and say, like you're saying, with time and being at home now with COVID, you can set your boundaries around your work day as well. Boundaries can be not looking at your phone for the first hour in the morning. Boundaries can be, I'm only going to have 4 Zoom calls each day, and I'm going to have a half an hour in between to rest or to make time for lunch or to go out for a walk. So boundaries is really about putting yourself first and prioritizing that in terms of your health and well-being.
So I want to ask, what is one common myth about your profession or about stress and burnout that you would like to debunk?
That's such a great question. Love that question, Alex. For me, it would have to be, I know there's a lot of talk about burnout, and I'm not here to, say right or wrong to anyone of how they are feeling. But I think a lot of people need to understand that burnout is not, I'm tired and frustrated for 3-4 weeks with work. I'm going to take 2 weeks off and then I'll be fine. I'll come back and be fine. It is literally, 10 times bigger than that and 10 times worse than that. You can absolutely be exhausted. You can have fatigue. It can be a chronic fatigue, whatever is going on with you and in that time and how long you really have been struggling with it. But I think we need to understand that burnout is it's not about falling into it quick or getting out of it quick either.
Very interesting. So you, just to highlight again, you mentioned you were in bed for 6 months. Like, that is mind-boggling to me. And but it seemed to be the culmination of 10-15 years of just stress, go,
Yeah.
Consistently, and that just built up to the point where your recovery period, it wasn't 2 weeks, it was 6 months, and that is what burnout is from what I'm understanding.
Yeah. I mean, burnout with so many that I speak to as well, and just kind of friends and colleagues, let's say, in the space, most of us, I can't say the percentage of what it is right now, but so many of us, like, we're in a state where we can never go back to that type of job or that type of environment again, because we couldn't physically, it would burn us out again, but we couldn't physically or mentally cope with it. So it's really, it's completely life-changing in terms of what happens before burnout and then what happens after. As well as, if you do go through burnout, you need to really watch yourself and be very cautious, because I think it's 68% more likely to fall into burnout again.
Okay, I'd like to ask then, with that in mind, can you briefly explain how you work with clients to prevent that from happening? How do you sort of capture where they're at and help steer them away and back into sustainable, healthy habits that last them for a long time?
Yeah, sure. For me, I have a program that is, a 12-week coaching program, but it's literally built on the 4 parts of both my experience, but also, from my education and now working with clients of what they need. It starts with self-mastery. And the 4 points are self-mastery, powerful mind and mindfulness, high-performing habits, and then unbreakable boundaries. But why it starts with self-mastery is really getting to know yourself and yourself on a very, very deep and intimate level of looking at your, thoughts, emotions, behavior, like that cognitive behavioral therapy, just that triangle of going round and round. And really also about your triggers and stressors and learning about them and bringing awareness to them and identifying them to be able to stop in that moment and not be so reactive, but also learn then to change them. And it's really about like taking back the control of your life and getting clarity into every situation that is happening and what is happening with yourself, both in reaction to thoughts, emotions, and behavior. So it's really basing that foundation around your life, your unique, values, beliefs, goals, everything that is tied into that for a start point.
So if we kind of correlate that to what you were discussing earlier, as to why you got into this whole field, you basically said you were kind of numb to what was going on around you, to your body, to like any body pain, you just kind of numbed it out, shut it out. You're just reacting to whatever came up in this whole fight or flight mode. So I guess this is actually listening to, oh, I have a bit of back pain, or I'm really fatigued, or maybe I don't need this fourth coffee of the day or whatever it is. So I guess it's then tuning into rather than tuning out that.
Yeah it's all that the whole start of the self-awareness, self-mastery, it really is, it's inner work of taking, almost taking like a microscope and pause button on situations that are happening in your life daily, things that are coming from outside, how are you reacting on them, relationships that are going on. Because when our thoughts come up, an emotion happens with that, and then we connect and take action through behavior. And it's really breaking that cycle of what do I do naturally and don't even think about it, and also becoming aware of, with curiosity, oh, I'm actually feeling some reaction of a stressor here, or someone that said something, or being put in a situation, and I can feel my body reacting. This is interesting. What is this? Is this stressing me out? Oh, yes, it is, because now I'm aware of my emotions and how I'm reacting and what those symptoms are showing up in my body.
Very, very interesting. So step one is self-mastery. So that's understanding and appreciating all of the signals that perhaps currently, because you're so busy, you're shutting out. Cool. Step two, talk me through that.
Step two, powerful mind, or mindfulness, as I like to say, because mindfulness is such a huge part in bringing awareness to the present moment and living in the present moment. Keeping you grounded, both feet on the ground, not flying into the future or automatic thoughts and going into worst case scenario, or not actually living in the past and keeping you stuck in the past, comparing each situation with this and this and this happened, or those people did this and this to me. It's really keeping your presence here and learning you to almost like pause and gain perspective. Pause again with that. And mindfulness is such a great tool around, the 9 attitudes that help you through this practice of, for example, some of them are, trust and patience and acceptance and non-judgment. So it's really about gaining that perspective and living with the present moment and being aware of what's happening right here, right now.
Interesting. So I've got this picture in my head. I can't remember the actor's name, but have you seen Limitless, the film, where he gets the main character, I think he's an author, writer, gets a pill that unlocks his brain, and almost the world seems to slow down, and he can just see everything going on around him. So I kind of envisaging that with firstly the self-awareness piece, but then the mindfulness piece, just not forgetting about the past, but tuning out the past right now and not thinking about what's going to happen. You say future, like that can be in 5 minutes time. It doesn't have to be 2 years down the line. It can be
you're
about to go into a meeting, but right now you are here,
exactly
very aware and very present. So yeah, very, very powerful.
Yeah.
Cool. Step number 3, talk me through that.
Step number 3, high performing habits. Of course, again, you'll kind of see the red thread, as I say, of all these linking together. But this is looking at your routine and the patterns you have now, and then back on the behavior you are living with, or the choices you're making each and every day in your life. And of course, habits will look at both sleep, nutrition, exercise. All of those are so important. And also introducing self-care and really finding those habits that are going to elevate your mind and body each and every day and bring you, more energy, more clarity. And also habits are really the foundation for moving the needle, towards your goal and towards what you are setting for your success, but also, as I always speak of, sustainable success. This is so important of what am I doing each and every day to support myself and become the best version of me to go after those goals.
Love it. I'm a huge advocate of habits. My favorite book which I read last year, I think I read it 3 times in the space of like 4 months, was Atomic Habits. It's I think it's on the bookshelf just behind me, might be that one. But James Clear, the author, talks about think about your habits almost as your trajectory. I'm going to mess up the wording, but if you implement good daily habits, it doesn't really matter where you are, because you know that your trajectory is solid. That's going to add up and compound over time to something quite significant. But if your daily habits are bad, again, it compounds over time. So even if you are successful now, it sounds like 15 years you were working really hard, working your way up the ranks and stuff. But unfortunately, I guess your habits at the time were setting you on a negative trajectory, and then at some point it just tipped the scale, and then that sort of shot negatively. Whereas even if you are, not where you want to be and fatigued and so on, by changing the trajectory, changing the angle and gradient of that line, you can set yourself up for sustainable success. Love that word, sustainability. Love it.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. So step number 4, am I right in thinking unbreakable boundaries?
Unbreakable boundaries. Yeah. So kind of what we spoke of a little earlier, again, essential to burnout prevention. And the more boundaries you can set and the more comfortable you will become with them, and the more situations you can see and your environment, and protect and really reclaim your energy and power, the better. Because what they are is they're a form of, self-care that allows you to really say, no, I'm not going to do that, or no, thank you for the invite, but I'm, for example, focusing on my rest and relaxation this weekend. Whatever it is, again, learning to say no to something and saying yes to yourself without the guilt.
Love it.
Yeah, energy wise with boundaries is so important, of just a relationship that you have with yourself, and respecting that, and respecting both your health, but also mind and body, and where you need rest and where you need time for yourself, and to prioritize yourself. There's nothing wrong with putting yourself first. we look at that, the saying, you know, when we're on flights and when we're traveling, you know, always put your mask on, your oxygen mask on yourself before you help someone else. And that's the thing. If you don't keep your own cup full and taking care of yourself, you won't be able to help someone else.
That's such a great point. You can't give to others from an empty cup. So you have to keep your own cup full. I love that. So I'm curious, Rebecca, Unbreakable Boundaries is step number 4. Now, this is clearly hugely powerful and probably something that all of us could help, could do with implementing in our lives. So why is this step 4 of the program and not earlier on in the program?
Oh, great question. Love that. Unbreakable Boundaries it's step 4 because this is one that can take a bit more work, and that's fine. Everything takes its time, but you also need to be very aware and very comfortable and very set in yourself in connection to what is going on, both thoughts, emotions, behavior, and when you are in every situation, environment, relationships, whatever that may be. So that is why this part comes on number 4, to know yourself first and to really learn and go through the steps of self-awareness and having that, you know, being completely confident with that, but also mindfulness in you are living in the present moment and aware of what is going on around you, and being able to choose where you want to invest your energy. But also with habits, you know, setting those habits there and finding a lot of joy in them and seeing how they are supporting you and actually lifting you and helping you along the way with your goals. When those habits are in place and you put then unbreakable boundaries on top of that, you're not gonna let someone come in and say, no, forget about your workout on Saturday, for example. Let's go get lunch here in town. We're gonna, you know, I'm only here for the afternoon. Or someone trying to, because everyone will always push your boundaries, whether that's in work or with friends, or let's say with family. And when you have those habits in place, whatever that boundary will be, if someone is trying to, you know, oh, don't worry about it, we'll go to dinner late, you know, we'll be back home by midnight, it's no problem. And you're like, no, but my habit, and I stick by that, and this is my boundary, I go to bed at 10 every night because I am working towards this and this. I have my goals set. I have a very clear schedule on what I want to do tomorrow and why I'm doing it. And my values and beliefs are behind that as well. So everything, you know, is supporting this and really empowering you to make these choices and make these habits, boundaries, whatever it is, come completely naturally and really flow through. So you are completely confident and have so much clarity with where you're going that unbreakable boundaries will become easier, or boundaries will become easier to set once you've gone through the first 3 steps.
Makes a lot of sense. So you can't really set boundaries until you understand, you know, what is going on around you, what is pulling you from pillar to post, without being present in the moment and realizing and appreciating all of that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, cool. When do you feel most at ease?
Oh, you mean in work life or private life, or in everything?
In everything, yeah. Like day to day, at what point do you feel most yourself, most relaxed, most at ease?
It would be, of course, spending as much time in nature as I can. I do my, walk every day in nature, which I love, and that supports me both mindfulness and habit-wise and health-wise. I really love my daily walks. That's something that really brings me to ease. I love listening to like binaural beats that I'm really into now, and frequency and meditation, just music of when I'm working, not major music, because I need to just look at and protect my own with focus and concentration and energy. But I do enjoy that, and I really love, personally at ease, whenever I'm close to an ocean or a lake and I can go swimming and it's that weather, I'm at my happiest. Like, I love the water.
Love it. Brilliant. And am I right in understanding you live in a forest or next to a forest, and there's a lake nearby as well?
Yeah. My backyard is a forest and my front yard is a lake. So I'm very lucky with that. I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, beautiful. But it must be pretty cold because you're mid Sweden.
So right now I'm in Stockholm, or just outside Stockholm. So I split my time in Sweden. My parents live here, and then my sister is in San Francisco, and I split half my time there. So usually the winters I like to be in a warmer climate, or over in San Francisco, and then in the summers, nothing can beat Sweden in the summers. It's incredible.
I love that. As someone who has spent probably in total maybe 4 months in Sweden over the years, lots of holidays. I have family in Sweden, a couple of hours north of Stockholm. I can definitely vouch for Swedish summers, especially by lake. So it seems to be lots of woodland everywhere.
Yes, yeah.
My grandma had a house that was a stone's throw away from the third biggest lake in Europe, Lake Vernon. Go swimming in, you go fishing, driving the boat out into the lake, and then at the backyard there was pretty much a few minutes away there was a forest. So we used to go pick lingonberries. So yeah, I can definitely empathise. The summers there, just being out in nature, definitely love it.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah.
If you could get the entire world population to do one new thing every day, so one thing done consistently every day, what would it be and why?
To implement self-care and to prioritize your own self-care. Whatever practice that might be, if that is, going out for a walk, or doing your hike every day, or taking a moment for your meditation in the mornings, or if that is reading a book in the evenings, if that's whatever you enjoy and whatever gives you energy, and you can prioritize me time and put yourself first. Yes, self-care is it, with whichever practice that you do there and then.
So Rebecca, who are 3 people that have been most influential to you? Can't think of 3, please, just 1 or 2, but I'd love to know why. I'm not sure I can think of 3 people.
No, I was just gonna say, love that question. Are you thinking life in general, or kind of business mentors that I've had, or just very special people in my life?
Anyone. I'm sure they all have different reasons. So yeah, whichever you choose.
Yeah. Well, my sister will of course have to be one, because she is my rock. We have a very, very close relationship, and I thank God for her every single day. I don't know what I would do without her. And we speak every day, so we're very close. And another one for me is, I mean, one of my good friends, Sophie, I met her in London, but she lives in Paris right now. And this is the thing, I think, for me with friendships, I have a very, let's say, small circle of friendship or people, within my family that I call them my family, my little circle. And even though they don't live close to me or that I can see them as often as I'd like, we still have such a special relationship. And I know that they mean everything to me, and that goes back to them as well. And we can always count on each other. And if there's anything that we're going through or need support or help or, just being there for each other, she is my girl. And she's always been a kind of mentor to me as well, and like an older sister. She's a few years older than me, not much, but we've always had a very, very special bond.
Love that. So two very supportive, close, family and friends. Any external kind of, not people you're maybe not so close with but look up to, or business mentors, anything like that?
I think business mentors, in terms of, I really find this interesting of, really investing in yourself and putting yourself first, whether that is, with health or business, mentors, coaches with that, therapies, that I spoke of there before. For me, that has been such a game changer. I think both in when I was recovering and asking for help or asking for that support, but also in business of having, someone there. I've worked with a few people just this year, and I have people on my list that I want to work with and ask for help, this in the beginning of 2021. So I'm very open to always, how can I grow? How can I learn more? Teach me, support me, or how can I use this for the best of my ability? Because I don't think you can, let's say, rise and grow alone and meet your goals as quickly as you want to. Otherwise, you can, but it will take time. And I think I've learned that from my previous years of both starting a business and being in running a business, is you can do it, but it will take you so much longer time and so much longer energy wise of figuring everything out yourself.
I can absolutely agree with that one. I know. Well, the old saying, you are the average of the closest 5 people, or the 5 people you spend time with. So
yes, yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I love that saying as well. I think it's so true, or it's so obvious, I should say. I think with that, when you really look to who are your friends, who are you supportive people around you. Just saying that now, I don't know why I didn't mention my friend Christine. Sorry, Christine. Christine is my best friend as well, and another like sister to me that I've known for ages. I mean, years, probably since we met, since we were 11. But that's also a girl or woman in my life that I can always speak to and have continuous support with, and is just an angel, complete angel. So yeah, my circle is very small. I always say my friends I can count them on one hand.
Quality, not quantity, right?
Yeah.
And that's probably made things a lot easier for you, given the whole pandemic situation. Trying to keep up with 20 friends who are lesser friends is not as easy as regular contact with better quality. So
yeah, true.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Rebecca, for your time today on the podcast. I look forward to chatting with you soon and getting these out and seeing what feedback we get. Hopefully your audience will enjoy the conversation that we've had today, but I think I've learned some things, and definitely lots and lots of people can learn a lot from today's conversation. I think the biggest takeaway for me is burnout. To kind of debunk that, burnout is something that cumulatively builds up over years and years, and then it's not something you recover from in a weekend, a week, even 2 weeks. It's 6 months initially, plus a number of years to really get back towards where you want to be. And then even then, as you say, you can't really get into the same sort of corporate role that you were in. So change your direction, change your trajectory. But very interesting.
Yeah.
So Rebecca, where can people find you? How can they hear more from you and learn more from you?
I am on LinkedIn a lot. Of course, that is one of my main connection points. At Wellness by Rebecca. I'm also on Instagram, Wellness by Rebecca, and my website is wellnessbyrebecca.com, which you can find me as well. Yeah. Thank you so much, Alex. I really enjoyed our conversation as well. So thank you for having me.
Appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll speak to you soon.